Hi guys, and welcome back to the FEI channel. My name is Ashley Harrison. Some of you may recognise me from my YouTube and Instagram, Ashley Harrison Eventing. I am super excited to be here filming this video for the FEI. I am here in Hampshire at the Liphook Equine Hospital filming a video for you as part of the Health for Horses campaign brought to you by FEI and Boehringer Ingelheim. We are going to head on into Liphook to meet one of Liphook's senior vets, Jamie Prutton, to talk about what should be included in your basic yard vet kit. We are joined here today by Jamie Prutton, one of the senior vets here at Liphook Equine Hospital. Lovely to meet you, Jamie. If you could maybe give us a little bit about what you do here at Liphook, what your role is and what you specialise in.
Of course. I'm one of the senior assistants here at Liphook Equine Hospital, and specifically I work in our medicine department. At Liphook we offer a service for referral work, and so all those cases that are a little bit unusual, that's what we're going to deal with here in the hospital. We also provide a large ambulatory service, so we have 12 vets out on the road, supplying for the needs and demands of our usual customers as well.
I'm sure a lot of people will be interested to know how the Liphook Equine Hospital differs from your traditional vet practice.
As you can see, we've got a large number of stables here. We have nearly 50 stables in total. We do a lot of surgeries, so we have a whole surgical suite and a whole team dedicated to just surgery, so general anaesthetics and anything standing as well. We also have our medicine team dealing with our gastroenterological diseases, so our diarrheas, some of the colics that the surgeons can't deal with, but also our foals. Those ones that are really sick that can't be dealt with on the road. So what we're really doing is anything that's just that little bit more complicated than can be dealt with by our road team is what's going to come here, spend some time in the hospital, and hopefully we'll work out what's wrong with it.
Okay, so what do we have in here, Jamie?
Well, we've got two machines in this area. First and foremost is our CT.
Like if you went to hospital and had
exactly. So we are able to do two things with this one. One is a standing CT, so as it is set up right now, and you put the head onto the little black cradle, it's going to allow us to scan from the nose to about the second vertebrae in the neck. The next option is you can lift that table up to be level with the black sort of cradle, and you can do general anaesthetic.
How do you get the limbs in there?
You literally have the horse lying down like that, and the leg going in.
Oh, okay.
Sorry, Jamie, you're going to have to lie down a bit better than that.
So next, we have MRI. This is not an area I ever come into, but this is particularly for lamenesses that are in the foot. We have what's called an open coil. Rather than being a complete loop, it's got that U shape, and you just put the foot straight in there. But it gives you the really, really fine detail about the soft tissues in the foot, which X-rays don't give you.
So, as we all know, every yard should have their own yard vet kit, but how does that differ to what a vet would have in the back of their car? And we've kind of got a vet's car here so we can have a look.
Yeah, so obviously we're going to have a lot more stuff in the back of a vet car, there's no question about that. So we're going to have a lot of our drugs, whether it's pain relief, whether it's antibiotics, particularly antibiotics, things like that. Don't ever administer without some advice, because we always worry about antibiotic resistance that can be a problem in the human world. We have a lot more bandaging material at the back. A lot of what we talk about today is about just little bandages to protect a wound, whereas a lot of what we'll be doing is big bandages to support the limb if there's a questionable fracture, tendon injury or anything like that. One thing we always carry now is a hat, so it's a big drive within the veterinary industry to make sure everyone is as safe as possible, just like all our riders wear hats when they're doing their job.
Thank you very much, Jamie. That was really helpful. Maybe should we go and head down and have a look at what us horse owners should have in our yard vet kit?
Yeah, of course, let's do it.
So we've got all of the items laid out here that Jamie suggests we have in our yard kit at home. So maybe if Jamie could go through each item and briefly explain what they're used for.
Of course. We can start with our rubber gloves. I think everyone's used to these now with the COVID pandemic, but if you're handling a wound or taking a rectal temperature, wear your gloves both for yours and your horse's safety.
Definitely.
Cotton wool. That's for cleaning things mostly, so any wounds we can wash away with that. We can use something like povidone iodine to do washing of a wound, but what's really, really important is super dilute, really weak tea. Anything stronger than that and you're going to kill the cells of the horse. We've got our dressings. We've got our dressing to go on the wound.
On the wound, yeah.
So this is just a simple light dressing that's going to protect the wound. We've got our soft band that's going to go over that and make sure that you don't get any rubs, followed by your vet wrap. And that's the tight one that we talked about earlier that's going to bind around the outside of the dressing. If we are doing a foot dressing and we're putting the cotton wool on, you might have to use the knit firm. The one important thing with the knit firm is don't make it too tight because that can be constrictive as well.
Can I just ask, the cotton wool, this comes in a big, essentially like a sheet that's rolled, isn't it?
Absolutely.
So you could either use that to clean, or then we also are using this as a bandage?
Absolutely, yeah. You're completely right. So we use it in our cars to do the supportive bandage. We're not going to really use that for the on-the-yard work, but for a foot you might wrap that around the whole hoof and then do your knit firm, or you can tear chunks off. With the foot, you can use a bit of black tape to make sure that that bandage doesn't slip. Again, making sure that doesn't touch any of the skin, because that will cause a lot of rubs and a lot of pain.
Yes.
Next is our animal Lintex. So this is for your hoof abscesses. So it's a particular product that's going to absorb water and then it's going to produce a gel that's going to draw any pus out and also soften the hoof to allow the pus out. So that goes against the hoof, shiny side away after being soaked in some warm water, and then you wrap it with the cling film and the knit firm.
Yeah.
The final thing in here is our thermometer, and that's going to be to make sure that your horse doesn't have any infections or anything along those lines.
What would you say, Jamie, is the most important item in your medical vet kit?
I think the thermometer is the most important one, and the reason is that most wounds can be dealt with over some time, whereas if you've got an infectious disease going on and you're worried about the yard, particularly if you're going to competitions, you need to know now, does your horse have a fever? Temperatures over 38.5 would be what you're looking for as abnormal. And you just gently push the tail to one side, keeping yourself nice and safe, so if they do kick, you don't get kicked. And then gently insert the thermometer into the anus and keep it to one side so that it doesn't sit in some poo and give you a falsely low temperature. What's really important with your horse is to get used to what your horse's temperature is. So some horses sit at 37.5, some sit at 38. So taking your horse's temperature twice a day can be really helpful to learn that.
Okay, so we've now looked at what we should have in our general veterinary kit at home. So maybe we could give a bit of an example, use the lovely Tallulah again, and look at if she came in with a wound, what we would do at home.
I think there are two types of wounds we should be talking about. One is a puncture wound and one is a bit more of a laceration, so a cut. I think the important thing first of all with the puncture wound, if it's anywhere near any joints, whether it's the hock, the fetlock, down into the pastern region, call your vet. Because you don't know how deep that puncture wound has been and whether it may have caused a sepsis in one of those joints. If we're talking more of a laceration though, so a cut sort of, along the thigh, let's say, first things first is making sure it's clean. We want to make sure that there's not too much debris in there. Now don't go rummaging in there, let's get it cleaned. Now if you were to come here, we were to do it, or the vets were to do it on the road, we'd probably just use a bag of saline. This is sterile. We may put a little bit of our iodine that we've got in our pocket, and then we'd use that under high pressure, cut the end off, and wash the wound out.
But obviously we're not going to have one of them at home.
Exactly, yeah. So what do? Tap water is spotless. If you've got a tap nearby, brilliant, use that. If you've got a hose, that's an adequate, acceptable way to move forward. If you genuinely don't have clean water, you could always use a kettle, boiled and then cooled. And again, you can always stick that iodine in there. The more you put in there, the better it is to get rid of bacteria.
Yeah. So if your horse has come in and they've cut themselves and you've cleaned it out with the tap water like you've suggested, and you're waiting for the vet and it's bleeding quite a lot, what would you suggest to do?
Yeah, I think one thing with horses is not to worry too much. They have a lot of blood. But if they are bleeding a lot and you're starting to get a puddle around the bottom of the foot, pressure is what you need. So if it's high up, you're not going to be able to put a bandage on.
No.
So you can just get some cotton wool with your glove on and put some good pressure on there.
Just hold.
It's going to help that clot. If sometimes they can get little wire wounds or anything down at the bottom where the arteries are, then sometimes they will bleed a lot. And if you've got one of those, then it is good to put a bandage on and then wrap that round, not tight. And you can always put a bit more pressure on with your hand. It's just not a very comfortable place to do it.
No.
But yes, if they're bleeding a lot, pressure.
Pressure and wait for the vet. As horse owners, we know that horses do injure themselves quite a lot. What should us horse owners be able to treat at home, and when should we call the vet?
Yeah, I think first and foremost is if you're worried, call your vet. Telemedicine now is getting better and better, so you can take photos, you can send things to us, and we can give a lot more guidance based on those. If anything is, a wound is infected, then you need your vet out.
Yeah.
If it's small on the skin here, you'll be fine to treat that. So we're going to imagine that the wound is on the front of the cannon bone. As you said, it's nice and clean, so we don't have to worry about any contamination. So first of all, out of our vet pack, we have these nice little dressings. So first and foremost, the shiny side will go onto the wound. The soft band is going to hold the dressing in place whilst you do it, and also it's going to provide some nice soft tissue material against the leg.
And I just keep coming up now.
All the way
And
up.
I'm using all of it?
Absolutely, because then you're going to have a good bit of padding between the vet wrap and the leg itself. And next you have your vet wrap. This is the self-adhesive bandage. The really important thing with the vet wrap is that it tightens by itself. So if you pull it, as you can see as Ashley's doing there, it stretches. And what's really important is to pull quite hard over the front of the leg and then release a little bit of pressure over the tendon so that you're not causing it to be too tight over the back. If this material gets wet, then you need to remove it straight away because vet wrap will tighten as it gets wet. Now it's beautifully in place. Always make sure that there's no bulges or anything that might induce a rub as well. You should be able to get 2 fingers in and around the top without too much of a problem. So that is a beautifully applied bandage.
We need to give that a mark out of 10. Your honest opinion.
9 out of 10 because there's a bit of soft band showing at the top.
Bit of soft band.
I'll take a 9 out of 10. So Jamie, if your horse has an injury and you're worried about your horse being lame, what would you suggest people need to look out for?
Yeah, so first and foremost, I think if you're worried about your horse being lame, if it's very sore, don't trot it up in case there's a fracture. But if it's only a little bit sore, when we're thinking about a forelimb, you want to be looking for that head lift on the sore limb.
Yeah.
And then in the hind limbs, that hip drop on the hind limbs. But as I say, if there's any concerns at all, stop the trotting and get your vet out to come and have a look.
That's all we have time for today. So I want to say a huge thank you to Jamie and Liphook Equine Hospital. I've learned a lot. I hope you guys have learned a lot. If you've enjoyed this video, please like, share and subscribe to the FEI channel, and we will see you next time.